before Zeus hurled his thunderbolt, before Poseidon claimed the seas, before any god sat upon Mount Olympus, there were older powers, vast, primal, elemental. They ruled the cosmos when the world itself was young and formless. Tonight, we descend into the darkness of ancient museums to walk among the Titans, the gods who came first, whose sculptures still carry the weight of their dominion. And by the end, you will meet the one they feared most, the figure carved in stone so imposing that later sculptors could barely look upon it. Stay until the end. The ancient Greeks knew a truth that modern people often forget. The gods they worshipped were not the first gods. Before Olympus rose, before the 12 sat in divine council, the Titans held dominion over heaven and earth. Their sculptures survive in fragments and reconstructions, some in the British Museum, others in Athens, still more scattered across Europe. Each one tells a story of power so immense that marble itself seems barely adequate to contain it. We begin our catalog where all mythology begins, at the very threshold of creation. Kronos, the name itself means time, and he was time incarnate. Father of Zeus, king of the Titans, and perhaps the most terrifyingly rational of all the gods. Unlike the Olympians who ruled through whim and passion, Kronos imposed order. He castrated his own father Oceanus and seized the throne. He swallowed his own children whole to prevent a prophecy. His marble face, when captured by Greek sculptors, shows not madness but cold calculation, the eyes of a ruler who will do anything, sacrifice anything, to maintain control. His downfall was believing his own power was absolute. Apetus was Kronos' brother, and his name survives in the word apetus, which means to pierce or thrust. He was the Titan of mortal life, the boundary between gods and men. His children would include Prometheus and Epimetheus, the beings most famously entangled with humanity. Sculptors carved him as muscular and ancient, with eyes that seemed to gaze downward toward the mortal world below. His legacy is not his own deeds, but the fate of his children, especially Prometheus, who would be chained and tormented for stealing fire on behalf of mankind. Themis was the goddess of divine law and order, not written law but the cosmic order that held reality together. She was revered even after the Olympians rose, consulted as an oracle, trusted as a keeper of fate. Her sculptured form shows a woman of terrible beauty, her eyes closed as if seeing beyond the mortal realm. She holds the scales of justice, balanced and eternal. The Titans knew that without Themis, chaos would reign. Even Zeus, king of Olympus, deferred to her wisdom. Some say that is why she alone among the Titans was forgiven and honored by the new gods. Mnemosyne, the name that gave us the word memory itself. She was the Titaness of remembrance, of all things preserved and recalled. Without her, the past would vanish. Without her, the gods themselves would be forgotten. She gave birth to the 9 muses, who inspired all art and song throughout human history. Her sculpture, rare and precious, shows a figure turned slightly, as if listening to voices only she can hear. Greek artisans gave her an expression of profound contemplation. She understands something the other Titans do not, that legacy matters more than power. That is why she endures. Hyperion was called the High One, the Titan of light itself. Unlike the sun god Helios who would come later, Hyperion represented light as a cosmic force, the illumination that separates being from nothingness. His sculptured form shows a being of almost unbearable radiance, his features refined and powerful. He stands crowned, though not with any earthly crown. His marble seems to glow from within in museum photographs. He fathered Helios, Selene, and Eos, the sun, moon, and dawn. Through his children, light would continue to rule the cosmos even after the Titans fell. His gift was eternal. Kronos was the Titan of intellect and the north, of the axis upon which the heavens turn. His name means query or investigation. He was the questioner among Titans, the one who sought knowledge of all things. Sculptors carved him as intelligent and austere, with eyes that seemed to pierce through stone itself. He stands balanced, as if supporting the weight of the celestial sphere. His daughter Leto would bear Apollo and Artemis, the god of prophecy and the goddess of the hunt. Through them, Kronos' legacy became woven into the very fabric of Olympian power. Intelligence, it seems, cannot be destroyed. Phoebe was the Titaness of prophecy and radiance, not sunlight like Hyperion, but the glow of revelation and foresight. Her name means the Bright One. She was less celebrated than some Titans, yet her influence was profound. She was an oracle, a seer, a keeper of divine knowledge. Her marble form, when preserved, shows a woman of ethereal grace, often depicted with her hand raised as if speaking prophecy to the heavens. The oracle at Delphi was said to inherit her prophetic gift. Even as the Titans faded, Phoebe's voice echoed through the ages in the mouths of priestesses and seers. Tethys was the Titaness of fresh water, rivers, springs, streams, all the life-giving waters that flow across the earth. She was the wife of Oceanus and the mother of thousands of river nymphs. Her sculpture captures something rare in ancient art, gentleness combined with cosmic authority. Her marble form seems fluid despite its stone nature, as if water itself has been frozen mid-flow. She wears no weapons, holds no symbols of dominion, and yet she ruled the waters that sustained all life. The Titans understood something we often forget, that the greatest power lies in what gives life, not in what takes it. Oceanus, not to be confused with the god Poseidon who came later. Oceanus was the eldest Titan, the waters that surrounded the entire world itself. He was vast, immeasurable, the boundary between existence and the void. His sculptured form, when captured by artists, shows a being almost too large for marble to contain. Ancient sculptors often carved only his head and shoulders because his full body would dwarf any temple. He is depicted with a beard of flowing water, with eyes that hold the depth of the primordial ocean. Even after his fall, his name remained synonymous with infinity itself. Kronos, Kronos' father, the Titan of the sky itself, the very first god. He was so primal, so elemental, that later civilizations barely remembered his name. His son Kronos rose up and violently castrated him, seizing the throne. Kronos withdrew from the cosmos, broken and bitter. Sculptors rarely carved him. How do you carve the sky? The few surviving representations show a figure almost abstract in its vastness, features barely human, as if divinity itself has not yet learned to take solid form. His defeat marks the moment when the cosmos became violent, when power passed from father to son through bloodshed. Nothing was ever innocent again. Now we turn to the Titans whose names we know from prophecy and loss. Rhea was queen of the Titans, wife of Kronos, mother of Zeus himself. Her sculpture shows a being of terrible maternal power. She will bear the god who defeats her own husband, and she will help him escape his father's hunger. Her marble face shows a complexity rare in ancient carving, both strength and sorrow, both defiance and resignation. She understood her role in the cosmos before it was written. Rhea is one of the few Titans whose power only increased after the fall of Kronos. She became revered as the Great Mother, honored by Greeks and Romans alike across centuries. Kronos was the Titan of the southern stars and the ram, a figure less known but no less important. His name means to oversee or preside. He represented divine power directed toward nurturing growth and seasonal renewal. His sculpture shows a being balanced between animal and divine, often depicted with ram horns or in proximity to rams in relief carvings. He is stern but not cold, powerful but not cruel. His children included Ares, god of war, and others who shaped the Olympian dynasty. Kronos reminds us that the Titans were not merely monsters awaiting defeat. They were cosmic forces that gave structure to all existence. Medes was the Titaness of wisdom and cunning, the strategic intelligence that Kronos lacked. She was mother to Athena, goddess of wisdom, though the manner of Athena's birth was extraordinary and tragic. When Zeus learned that Medes would bear him a daughter who would exceed him in power, he swallowed her whole, trapping her inside his own body. Her sculptures, rare and precious, show a figure of burning intellect. Her eyes seem to calculate, to plan, to see 10 moves ahead. Even imprisoned inside Zeus, she remained a source of divine counsel. No force, not even kingship itself, could silence her mind. Dione was a Titaness whose exact domain remains shrouded in mystery. Some texts call her goddess of the divine form, others of marriage. She appears as mother to Aphrodite in certain traditions, though Aphrodite's true parentage is disputed even by ancient authors. Her sculpture shows a figure of classical beauty and dignity, though often overshadowed by her daughter's fame. She represents the maternal force that gives birth to divinity itself. After the fall of the Titans, Dione remained honored, present at Dodona where the oracle spoke from Zeus's sacred oak. She embodies a truth, that some power is subtle, generative, and cannot be erased by conquest. Leto was a Titaness whose tragedy became legendary, and whose children would shake Olympus itself. When she became pregnant with Apollo and Artemis by Zeus, Hera's jealousy became so extreme that Leto was hunted across the earth, denied shelter everywhere she went. Only the floating island of Delos offered refuge. Her sculpture shows a being of supernatural grace and suffering, beauty mixed with endurance. She gave birth to gods who would define the Olympian age, yet she herself suffered as a mortal woman might. Her story reminds us that even divine blood could not shield the Titans from pain. Sometimes the most powerful legacy belongs to those who suffer the most. Asteria was Leto's sister, another Titaness swept up in Zeus's terrible appetites. Unlike Leto, Asteria resisted and fled, transforming herself into an island, Delos, some say, or Asteria itself. Her sculpture captures a moment of transformation, a being caught between her divine form and the stone that would preserve her memory. Her features show defiance rather than submission, choice rather than surrender. She represents the Titans who refuse to accept their diminishment with grace. Her resistance cost her everything, yet her name survived. There is a kind of victory in being remembered as one who said no, even to a king of gods. Eos was the Titaness of dawn, the first light that breaks the darkness of night. She was known for her beauty and her desperate loves. She pursued mortal men and immortals alike with the passion of the sun rising. Her sculpture shows movement and urgency, as if she cannot stop moving forward, cannot stop chasing what she desires. Her fingers seem to reach outward, her drapery flies behind her as if caught in the wind of her passage. Eos embodies a truth the Titans knew well, that the greatest power is not control, but the irresistible force of nature itself. She rises every morning without fail, unconcerned with conquest or defeat. We have now walked through the great Titans, gods of elemental force, cosmic order, and primordial knowledge. But the Titanomachy, the war between Titans and Olympians, was not inevitable. It was prophesied. And at the heart of that prophecy was a figure so terrifying, so fundamental to cosmic dread, that even Kronos himself lived in fear of this power. The sculptors who carved the Titans almost always saved this one for last. This figure was born not from the Titans, but from the very forces they controlled, and when finally revealed, it changed everything. We approach the climax of our descent. The light grows dimmer. The air grows cold. The Furies, the Erinyes, were born from the blood of Kronos when Kronos castrated him. They rose from the earth itself, creatures of vengeance and cosmic justice, neither Titan nor Olympian, but something older and fiercer. 3 of them carved in marble with terrifying accuracy, Alecto, Tisiphone, and Megaera. Their sculptures show figures of such rage that the stone itself seems to writhe. They carry torches and whips. Their hair moves like serpents. They chase those who have committed terrible crimes, and they do not rest, do not forgive, do not stop. The Olympians feared them. Even Zeus deferred to their authority. They represented a power no god could truly control, the inevitable consequence of cosmic wrongdoing. But there is one figure even more ancient, even more feared. One figure whose very existence preceded the war between Titans and Olympians. The Cyclopes, one-eyed giants of terrible strength, crafters of divine weapons. Bronze, Steropes, and Arges, makers of thunder, lightning, and the thunderbolt itself. Kronos imprisoned them in Tartarus. Later, Zeus freed them and gave them purpose, to forge the weapons that would be needed in the coming war. Their sculptures show figures of inhuman power, their single eyes set in foreheads like burning coals. Their hands are carved with precision and violence, capable of the most delicate divine work and the most brutal destruction. They are the Titans' executioners. And then there is Typhon. Typhon the most terrible. Typhon who was so vast, so powerful, so fundamentally opposed to all order that his very name became synonymous with chaos itself. Born from Gaia, the earth, Typhon had 100 dragon heads, each one spewing fire and venom. His body was part man, part serpent, part storm. He was imprisoned beneath Mount Etna, and the volcano itself is said to be his prison. His sculpture, the few fragments that survive, show something so alien, so wrong, that the stone seems to reject its own form. Museum curators kept his images in separate rooms. Artists who carved him reported nightmares. Something about Typhon, even in marble, carries the weight of cosmic wrongness. But we have not yet reached the figure promised in the opening, the one carved in stone so imposing that later sculptors could barely look upon it. We have circled through gods and giants and creatures of vengeance. And now, at last, at the very end of our descent into the Titan Age, we come to the figure that even the Olympians could not defeat through strength alone. The sculpture that demands to be seen. The power that could only be overcome by deception, by wisdom, by cunning. This final figure represents something the Titans failed to understand, that sometimes the greatest strength lies in compromise, in negotiation, in accepting change. This is the path not taken. This is the god who held out. Atlas, the Titan condemned to hold the sky upon his shoulders for eternity. His sculpture is perhaps the most famous of all Titan carvings, a figure bent beneath an impossible weight, muscles straining, veins prominent, face set in eternal endurance. Atlas was not the strongest Titan, nor the wisest, but he was chosen by Kronos for a task that would define him across all of human history. After the Titans fell, after Zeus triumphed, Atlas's punishment was to stand at the western edge of the world and support the celestial sphere. His marble form shows not agony but acceptance. He will bear this weight not because he must, but because someone must. His dignity lies in his burden. But wait, there is still one more, one that the ancient sculptors themselves seem to have feared, one whose image appears so rarely in marble that entire museum catalogues contain merely fragments and descriptions. A Titan whose defeat was so complete, whose erasure from the cosmos so thorough, that to speak his name aloud was considered dangerous. His sculpture, when it exists, shows a being of such compressed fury that the stone itself seems to scream. He is Menoetius, the Titan of rash action and recklessness, Prometheus's brother. Zeus struck him down with a thunderbolt so completely that even his memory was meant to be erased. Yet the sculptors carved him anyway in secret in darkness, because some powers once seen cannot be forgotten. We have walked through the great hall of Titans now. We have seen the gods who ruled before Olympus, the powers that shaped the cosmos when the world itself was raw and unfinished. We have met Kronos the rational, Oceanus the infinite, Rhea the wise. We have descended through layers of cosmic fear to encounter Typhon, the Furies, and the Cyclopes. We have stood beneath Atlas's eternal burden. And finally, we have glimpsed the deliberately forgotten. These sculptures remain as testimony that the Titans were not demons awaiting defeat, but gods with their own logic, their own dignity, their own tragic understanding of power and loss. The Titans were eventually defeated, imprisoned in Tartarus by the Olympians. Yet they were never truly destroyed. They remain carved in stone, preserved in museums, written about in texts that survive. And in a strange way, this preservation is their victory. Long after the gods themselves have faded from human belief, these sculptures endure. They remind us that all power is temporary, that all thrones are eventually challenged, that the greatest legacy lies not in dominion but in memory. The Titans understood the cosmos in ways the Olympians never would, and for that knowledge they paid the ultimate price. Yet something of their truth remains visible, touchable, eternal in marble and stone. Which Titan do you believe truly deserved to fall? Which one's vision of the cosmos speaks to you across the millennia? Leave your thoughts in the comments below and tell me which ancient civilization you want to walk through next. Will it be the Olympians in all their terrible glory, the Norse gods of storm and prophecy, The pantheons of Egypt, Mesopotamia, or ancient Asia subscribe now to gods in stone. The next hall awaits. The next descent into the divine has already begun. The sculptures are watching. The myths are waiting. And the darkness holds more wonders than light could ever reveal. Thank you for walking the halls of the Titans with me. From Kronos to Atlas, from Oceanus to Typhon, these sculptures are more than carvings. They are doorways into how ancient peoples understood power, inevitability, and the cycles of time itself. The Titans ruled before the world learned to fear the whims of the Olympians. Perhaps that is why their sculptures carry such weight, such gravity, such terrible dignity. See you in the next film. See you in the next museum. See you in the next descent into stone and shadow. The gods are waiting.